Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another episode of First Impressions. Today's review is of a film that I watched last night on Netflix. It's a film that's been on there over a year that I've been meaning to get around to. It's just, I've been dreading it because originally this was a film that I was looking forward to because of the premise, which I'll get to in a second. But then a couple of my friends saw it and they didn't like it. Now, there are instances with other films that they don't like that I like, and there are probably instances of films they like that I don't like, but I can't really think of any except probably, I have to get around to watching it to tell this, but probably Effrey with Future Kill, because he's the only one in our little group that likes that film. Everyone else hates it. I haven't gotten around to watching it, so I can't comment on that, but if I don't like it, that will probably be the only example, but another day, another video. Now, before I get into this, let me just say, this film is bad. And the sad thing about this is that this film did have potential to be great. It had potential to be a great 80s throwback. But it fails. And I think the biggest reason for that is its lack of money. I mean, they did get money through Kickstarter, but what it says here is that their budget goal was $35,000, which you can make a small movie for that, but you could probably make a film like this in a short film form and make it look good, but for a full-length film, not enough money. And when you look at the finished film, you can tell. Because I think a film like this needed at least $10 million to $20 million for it to look excellent. And if that's the biggest thing I can say about this film, wasted potential, is because with the money that they had and what they used it for to put on screen, we basically got a Sci-Fi Channel film with practical effects instead of shitty CGI. I mean, it does use animatronics, prosthetics, stop motion, and miniature, but it just looks laughable. Like I said just a second ago, it looks like basically that you took the money for a short film and made a feature-length film out of it. Now, if this was like a student film, it would get a mild pass because, you know, you're learning to do this stuff. But this was not a student film. This is a film made by professionals. It's written and directed by Alec Gillis and produced by Tom Woodruff Jr. Special effects virtuosos, I guess, for lack of a better term off the top of my head. They know what they're doing, but with this film, I've said it a couple times already, money issues. Now, the nexus of this film was the Thing prequel, because we all know the main issue with that film was, other than the fact we didn't really need a prequel, but putting that aside, the main issue was that the studio decided it would be a smart idea to replace the practical effects that Woodruff and Gillis' StudioADI did for the film, to replace those practical effects with CGI, make it look like a freaking video game. Well, they did show behind-the-scenes footage on their YouTube channel of what the effects were supposed to look like. People were like, yeah, that looks cool. So they decided to do a Kickstarter to make this film, and they were successful with the Kickstarter. It doesn't really say on Wikipedia what the amount of money. Here it is. $384,181 according to this, so a little bit over their goal. So, like I said, money issues. They took that and they made the film, and like I've already said a couple times, not a good effort. They should have kept it to just a short film, like maybe a couple people discover something, and then boom, it happens. Probably could have made the effects look a lot better. But no, that didn't happen. Now, this film does take a lot of notes from the original Thing, which makes sense, of course, because this film was made as a response to their work being covered up in a prequel to the Thing, so it's going to take notes from the Thing. And it is a throwback to that style of film, but just not as good. I mean, the cinematography is fine, except there's a couple moments where it's like, yeah, that looks lowbrow. It's mainly the lighting on the effects and how they look on screen. They look laughable. It's like if Ed Wood tried to make the Thing. It doesn't look good. But the plot of the film is it starts in '82 with a Soviet moonlander crashing into the Bering Sea, and then skips ahead to modern day, where we have this crab boat called the Harbinger. Its captain is played by Lance Henriksen, who I'm going to say is the best actor out of all these people in this film. But even then, he doesn't save the film, because this is definitely his weakest performance. I'll say he did a better job in that Sasquatch film he did over a decade ago, because he was the heart of that film. That shows that, and that right there shows that even on a low budget film that is not very good, you could still do an excellent performance or a decent performance. But here, definitely seems like he's phoning it in. Rest of the actors, the only other actor I sort of recognize is Matt Winston, who plays the character of Steven, and that's mainly because he played a special effects guy on New Nightmare. But anyway, we got a bunch of crab fishermen that work under Hendrickson's character. We got his granddaughter, who is a graduate student. Steven is her professor, who is a big jerk as the film goes on, mainly with salvage rights when it comes to the Moonlander when they find it. And another friend of hers who used to work in makeup effects. It's like, alright, that's a nice little thing there. Anyway, they find the Moonlander, bring it up, and of course they dig it out of the ice. Which of course right then you're like, don't do it. Don't do it. But with what this is a throwback to, we know they're going to do it. They do it. They take some samples from the body they find inside. And they eventually are attacked by a mutated creature. Now, it has that thing vibe to where it can take the form of anything. But it's a little different, as instead of it being, an alien being, it seems to be a experiment by the Russians. So from there, it's taken a few notes from Leviathan. And of course, it also has that Leviathan vibe, since it's out at sea. But it's like if you were to take Leviathan and a thing, kind of put it in a blender, and this would be the result. But not as good. I'd say the other big problem with this film is the pacing. I mean, it's a little bit over an hour, but the characters, I got what they were supposed to be, but it's like, as I was watching this, I was thinking, in addition to money, this film could have used a little bit more of a running time to establish some of these characters better, because with the runtime we got, it's trying, but they just fall flat, a lot of them. The only characters I really got a feel for were Hendrickson and his granddaughter. A little bit with Steven, but he was just being a jerk. The other characters, it was just like minor stuff, and I didn't really get into it. Rogue One, you get that same issue, but at least with them, you get a feel for them from the start, and that's because of the budget, the actors they got. That's another thing I'll say, is I don't think they really cast the characters strongly. Maybe it's the direction they got, maybe it's the script writing, maybe it was how quickly they had to film the film, or maybe it's the actors themselves. It's just one of those things, like, they felt off. That's what a higher budget could have gotten. You could have also had it with a better director. I don't mind Gillis, it's just, this was his first feature-length film that he directed, but just something felt off. Maybe if they had a director, or maybe a co-director who actually knew how to work a little bit better, or was a little bit more experienced as a director, it might have helped, but then again, with the budget issue, maybe not so much. Anyway, I got a little off track of the plot there for a second, but anyway, this creature, slowly picks them off one by one. If you've seen the thing in Leviathan, you get the gist of where this is going. It's going to end with one or two people surviving, a lot of people are going to die, and that's how it goes. I don't even feel like talking to it about it. Now, the special effects do look like crap, like I said, but they had interesting ideas from a creature design aspect. It's just they fall flat because of the lighting and other stuff on them. And even some of the stuff like the stop motion, it doesn't look that polished. It's like, yeah, this is like student level stop motion. Like I've said, that's another thing, like Film Skull. Like, film doesn't look that polished with that. I know I'm repeating myself, but I can't help it. That's the main issue with the film. The budget doesn't allow it to be that polished, and the effects look like crap, and then the pacing issue, and then of course the whole thing with the actors, like I've said before. Now, you guys know I'm not really a big fan of remakes, or at least spamming remakes, but I'd have to say in about maybe 5 to 10 years, this is a film I wouldn't mind them remaking, because it's a good proof of concept film, but it needs a bigger budget to fully be realized. Like, I can tell you, if I ever did get into Hollywood, this is a film I wouldn't mind trying to remake. I would still try to bring Gillis and Woodruff on, but definitely one I would want to remake with a slightly higher budget, even if I had to go through independent distributors. But, that's just a pipe dream I'm putting out there. But I'd say it's worth a watch, just for curiosity's sake, if you just want to see how badly executed this idea was. I think with the amount of money they had, it probably would have been better to do a documentary about the making of the Thing prequel and why it went awry, but that's just me. If I'd have to give it a rating, maybe just a 1 star out of 5, and that's just being generous. I was tempted at times to turn the film off, but I'm one of those guys that even if it's a horrible film, I like to stick it out and see if there's at least something decent in it. I mean, sometimes I might fast forward. There was a couple months where I did fast forward just a little bit, but I didn't fast forward a lot. Like with Spring Break, I fast forwarded through a lot of those scenes, but just enough to where it was like moving faster, like preparing for fast forwarding, sir. Manos: The Hands of Fate, I didn't fast forward through, but that's because I was watching it with the joke commentary stuff from. You guys know who I'm talking about? The guys that did that one show. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. Damn it! But anyway, like I said, a generous 1 out of 5 stars, and watch at your own risk.